Hello and welcome to the show. We are here today with the big video. For me, on Gran Turismo 7, it's time to kind of do my pseudo review, if you will, on this one. I've been playing quite a lot of this game, and I have to say I have been enjoying it. It is a very good, very fun, entertaining game. It is certainly, though, not without its problems, without its flaws, etc. Let's start off with some handling physics. Sure, let's go and load into a race somewhere that I can go. Let's go and load into a race that I've not won, that we can maybe go and get a better finish on somewhere. In fact, I've done most of these. We haven't run here, and that's an oval. I don't really want to run an oval. Oval, I mean, I like oval racing, do not get me wrong. Here we go, America. Let's go. Front engines, rear wheel drive. Oh, I can use my silly, powerful Camaro. That's massively over-spec'd for the championship, but it'll let me race it. So let's go and do that. It's only be a couple of laps around here. So, yeah, handling physics. Let's start with the basic stuff. If you play Gran Turismo Sport, this is immediately going to feel very familiar. It is a good driving game. It feels a little bit snappier on here than it did on Gran Turismo Sport. What I mean by that is if the car brakes sideways, it's very easy to overcorrect it. It's very easy for the car to kind of twitch around. It's easier for it to snap sideways a bit like that. I mean, this is a very powerful Camaro. It's got some 800 horsepower, so you would expect it to. There's going to be a gap there. That'll do. Yeah, but when it does snap, you have a very small window of opportunity to catch the car. And it's very easy to overcorrect it as well. Whoa, like that. There we go. It's actually, a good vehicle to demonstrate. I haven't driven this with much less. I've turned the traction control down because it was annoying me with some cars. I haven't driven this car yet. Jesus, it's savage. But yeah, I mean, there's an element of, I think I'm playing on a controller on this game. I think it would be easier on a wheel. I haven't. I got a penalty. I've never seen that before. I haven't had a chance to try this game on a wheel. Sadly, my wheel that works with PS4/5 is busted at the moment, so I haven't been able to test that out. But I would presume it is good. GT Sport was amazing on a wheel. This feels very similar, so yeah, I'm going to presume that it would all work. But yeah, it is a little bit snappier and twitchier. You'll get the hang of it though, which means you've got to be careful. Let's face it, this is an 850 horsepower Camaro. You would have to respect it, especially on cold tyres, and I didn't. I know a lot of that is on me, but yeah, it will bite if you are not very, very careful. But in general, I mean, the handling physics are good on this one. It is good to drive cars around here. It takes some getting used to. The road cars are a little better. On GT Sport, I never really liked the way the road cars drove. Race cars were great, road cars not so good. A little bit better here. The only naff thing with the game, the collisions, I don't know. It's sort of, as you see there, it's a little bit, it's neither here nor there. I mean, I'm not expecting Wreckfest or, a game that's more focused on having contact. I don't know, it's just, it feels like two Hot Wheels cars bouncing off one another most of the time. It's not bad, it's not the worst, but it also doesn't feel particularly spectacular. It feels quite fake, if that makes sense. I can't think of a better way to describe it. But yeah, that's not a big problem. The actual sort of physical driving of the vehicles is very, very good indeed. So that's the important thing at the end of the day. And this is on a controller here. You can still, I've still got all the golds on the super license and everything. You can do that on a controller. There's some that are a little bit fiddly. There's some that I've sat there thinking I would probably prefer to try to do this on the wheel, but it's certainly doable with a little bit of patience. And yeah, it's taking me a little bit longer to get used to it. I think partly because I'm not very used to PlayStation controllers. So, snappy Camaro. And got to be wary of that. But yeah, if you're looking for a good driving game, this is definitely that one. And we will come around and take the take the finish line. Yeah, okay. I'm in a massively over-spec'd car for this. Kind of a little bit of the point. So, in the plus column, the game drives really, really well. I mean, the other plus column is it looks amazing. There's no doubt about it. It is a stunning-looking game. Some of the detail on the cars is incredible. The weather effects. We might see some wet races as we go through here. I don't know. The weather effects are astonishingly good. Yes, I am playing this on a PS5. I don't know what the PS4 version, PS4 Pro versions and so on look like. They're probably not going to be as impressive, but yeah, on here it is fantastic looking, especially if you do get some of the sort of sunset races or sunrise races, night race. Yeah, as you will see, in fact, you will see as this video goes on, it is an absolutely stunning game. There's no doubt about it. You know, some of the Forza Horizon games are very, very pretty. Admittedly, this is more focused on circuits, but this is up there as one of the best looking racing games I've played, sort of full stop, if you like. So, yeah, you're not going to be disappointed by that. The first thing that you might be disappointed by is the single player is not great. It's not. What's here is fun. What's here is good, but there's nowhere near enough of it. So this is the way the game's world is broken down. You go to different continents, you go to all the different tracks. Okay, sure, that's fine, that's fun enough and everything, but these are it for the events, which means places like, where's Monza gone? Monza has one race. And that's it. Now you can set up your own race if you want, and maybe the game wants to encourage you to do that, but I'm just thinking compare this to Gran Turismo 4. Okay, let's just compare it to that. Think of how many events and championships there were to work through there. Special condition events, you had the endurance races. Monza has one race. And that's it. Bathurst, again, another legendary circuit. Bathurst has one 2-lap race. And that's it. Now, yes, this could be added to in the game's future. Maybe we will see more. This is what the game is like now. This is the game you're paying for now. Tsukuba has 3 races and that's it. There's just not enough of it. You can go through. Now, I have completed all of the cafe stuff. We'll go back to that here. So this is kind of like the single-player story mode, if you like. You go through these menu books. Now, these are quite fun. They're a bit irritatingly hand-holdy at times, and I was thinking I was going to go through these, and once you've done them, it would then open the game up, and there'd be a whole raft of championships to do. So, for example, acquire these cars. So each car you win for completing a single race. So one of those races you saw, like that race at Monza, for example, might award you a BMW M3, or might award you an 8C, or whatever. But once you've gone through all of this, that's it. You're done. And there's a few events unlock, a few of the sort of more special events unlock after you've got through it all. But that's it. I mean, championship-wise, this is your championships. These lot, and they're the only ones as far as I can tell. I was expecting when I got up to maybe like a super license, it was going to give me dump a bunch more events in, but it doesn't. There's just no. I say there's no end. Look, it's fun. I had a good couple of days, and then that's it, and then it's done. And now I'm just picking up and going through some of these. Okay, I've still got some events to do. We've got some over here. Here we go. We've got some World Touring Cars and GT3, but this is only a 5-lap race. I remember Gran Turismo 4 having a lot of, had a whole series of endurance races. Now, I'm not a big fan of endurance races personally. They're not really my cup of tea, but the fact that they were there was still cool. And if I wanted to, I could go and have a go with them. But this is just, it feels like it's really lacking for a game that's, now GT Sport got away with it. It was much more multiplayer focused, but for a game that is supposed to have a single player focus as well, it's just nowhere close to enough. Again, I go back to Gran Turismo 4. There were specific events for manufacturers. There was an MX-5 Cup, and you got a special MX-5 at the end of it, or whatever. We don't have that either. We just have the world circuits, and that's it. And that's your lot. The driving missions, again, these are fun, but, there's not a crazy amount of these. Yes, there are some difficult ones that will take a little while to get through, but they're kind of a distraction. I was expecting a lot more. I personally, having, loved sort of Gran Turismo 4 and that sort of game, was expecting way, 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 way more in terms of single-player stuff, and it's just not there. What is there is very good fun, do not get me wrong, but, yeah, I'm hoping, I do hope it might be remedied, but it's a shame. It really is. And again, it's another thing, the used car lot is nowhere near as exciting as I was hoping it was going to be. Now, for those of you that have played older Gran Turismo games, will love this as an idea. And in theory, the idea should be great, could be great. You have these cars that you can't, so the older cars, things like a 90s Civic or Integra, for example, you can't go and buy from the showrooms. You buy modern, up-to-date cars from the showrooms, and then the more classic vehicles cycle around randomly into the used car lots. That's a fun idea. It means, different cars turn up at different times. You get excited going to look at the used car lot, see what there is. Again, you play Gran Turismo 4, the earlier games, you love this. It was a fantastic, fun way of sort of an always interesting, car shopping experience, if you like. And while we've got it, it's not very good, in that maybe one car, the only thing that's been added since I played this game yesterday is that Skyline. And that's it. And this is the same cars as it was yesterday. And I mean, maybe one car changes a day, and that's it. The Rally 5's been here for ages, and Mito. I had a lot of hope, but I saw this. I thought it was really exciting when I did that very first video on the thing on the game. I thought it was going to change every couple of races, maybe, but it doesn't. And it's so disappointing because it's such a good idea. It's a fun way to have discoverability of cars, but it just doesn't change often enough. You have these legend cars as well. And this, again, not a bad system. Random cars turn up here. They are expensive. You'll need a good chunk of money. And they, over time, they sell out. I presume they have so many that different, let's say there's 1 million F50s, and when players have bought it, and that might be a lot, but when players have bought it, that then sells out and then they swap the car and so on. It's kind of a fun way of doing things, but again, these only change... Well, rarely. That's new today. The rest of them were here yesterday. In fact, the car that was on that slot was a Porsche that had been there since I started playing the game. So it doesn't change regularly enough. And I think the reason why it doesn't change regularly enough is the car list is just not... I say it's not big enough. It's difficult. It's not got a bad car list. Okay? And there are some really exciting, quirky, fun things that I am going to get excited about. But there's not really enough of them. Not really, not for a single-player Gran Turismo game, because ultimately, what is here is fun and looks good. It's fun having a dumb Prius. I want to do dumb things with that sort of car, but things like Crown Athlete and so on. Actually, Toyota's probably not a great example to go here, because there is a decent enough selection of Toyotas, really, but it's just not really a big enough car list. The actual physical number might not be too bad, but it does cheat a little bit, because... You've got, I think Honda might be a better one to sort of showcase. So you've got a few kind of basic cars, but then you've got an NSX, you've got a GT3 version of the same car, you've got a Group B version of the same car, you've got a bunch of Vision GT cars I don't really care about. They're not really real, they're not really... Well, they're fun, but they're not really all that relevant to anything. It's a little disappointing, really. Now, of course, more cars will probably be added as time goes on, sure, but... For what there is at the moment, again, okay, Lexus is a good example. RCF, you've got Group 4, GT3, another GT3, then you've got GT500. Okay, admittedly, it's a slightly different category. That's a little bit more extreme and everything. But, yeah, I'd love to have seen, there's no IS200, there's no ISF, or a GS300, or LS400, or... The weird, quirky cars that made Gran Turismo 4 so great because you could go and mess about with them, or I say Gran Turismo 4, also the older ones, made them so great is there was such a huge selection, a whole bunch of random crap that was more fun to mess around with, and it could fill out a used car lot screen, and you could have wacky, quirky versions of everything. Yes, there was also the criticism of having 1 million Skylines, but I'd rather have 1 million Skylines than one. Personally, I would rather have more than less in this instance. But again, it's kind of what feels like a lot with this game is that it's just not quite as much content. No, certainly not as much content as I was expecting. Let us go and load up. I'm just going to stick with the shorter races rather than doing these ones that will be sort of like 10 or whatever laps. 3 laps with a Japanese road car. Shall we go with... Actually, you know what? Let's go with this. I like this car. 550 performance, so should smash this one relatively well. Okay, this is a night race. It wasn't the first time I did it, but sure, we'll go with it. Now, another thing that does, I say, irk me about this game, and you see it with almost all of these races. A few special races have standing starts, and they're much, much better. I can't stand the rolling start race. Not because rolling starts are bad, but because this isn't a race. Now, the AI themselves are actually pretty good, and this is what makes it even more annoying. Gran Turismo games in the past were notorious for having dumb AI, and that's just a thing. They had pretty quirky, crappy AI that would push you off the track and all that. Okay, sure. You kind of forgave it because the game was huge, and... at that time you were a little bit more forgiving of that. The AI on here are actually pretty good. They'll race you relatively fairly. They'll race you relatively cleanly. They don't often push you off the circuit completely. They might shut the door, they might defend quite heavily, but I don't know if I can make this skyline give me some space somewhere. Possibly not, depending on where I catch it. But in general, they'll actually race with you pretty well. And when you get to some of the standing start races where everybody's together, you might still get clonked occasionally by them. They are AI at the end of the day, but you can have some fun racing. So who decided that almost every single player race should be this dumb chase down the cars game mode? Now, as a game mode, you having the faster car and slower vehicles having a head start is fun. I like that as a game mode. There's the showdown modes in Forza were fun. The one-lap magic in the driving missions of this are good fun. Woo, just about to stop there. They're great, great fun. But I don't want that as the default experience. This isn't racing. There's no incentive for me to turn up in a car that's particularly comparable, because at the end of the day, I mean, we've still got, okay, we've got an 11-second gap now. The gap normally to the leader is about 20 to 40 seconds, depending on what track you're driving at and how many laps, etc. Okay, sure, fair enough. If I can catch a 40-second gap in 4 or 5 laps around a circuit, I'm not going to be able to race with that car fairly. I'm not going to be able to race with that car closely, you know, because I've got to make up an unbelievably large... I've got to be so much faster per lap to catch that. That car is not going to be close to me in terms of speed. As I said, it's a fun game mode to try that, but I'm not going to be able to have a fun race like that. I can't have a wheel-to-wheel battle with a car that I'm 10 seconds a lap faster than. So, yeah, why have we got this as the default game mode? It's just, there's no incentive for me to pick a car that's vaguely close in comparison, because if I'm only a second a lap faster or half a second a lap faster, well, I'm not going to catch a 40-second gap, am I? And there are a few of these races it seems to be a case of the AI drives slow, and then once you pass the leader, they kind of pick up the pace. I have seen that a little bit, but why not just have everyone start to a rolling start, everyone start close together like an IndyCar style start, or just put the cars on the bloody starting grid, because I know you can do it, game, because you do for some of them. I don't understand that decision. Okay, traditional Gran Turismo games have done it, but go on, make the game more fun. I want wheel-to-wheel racing. I don't want the dumb... keep the one-lap magic stuff, of course, because it is a fun challenge, but I don't want that default mode. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I find it's really, really annoying, especially when the AI are very good fun to race against in the game modes where you can. When you have the grid starts, you can have some very, very close racing. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a pain. I say a little bit of a pain, it's a lot of bit of a pain. All it does is incentivize me to build or turn up with whatever crazy overpowered thing, because I can't see the point in wasting my time on these to kind of have something vaguely close. Because you're not going to get close racing anyway. It's either going to be really close on catching the vehicle by the end of it. Sure, if I have maybe something the right speed, but it's just not the same incentive as actually having close wheel-to-wheel racing. It's one of the biggest disappointments. You know, not only do we not have that much in terms of single-player content, what we have is a lot of just chase down some slow cars. So I'll grab whatever is fastest from my garage. Yeah, you do get, at least this race, it might have been a night race. We do get, it started off as a night race, you do get to see the light. It's absolutely gorgeous lighting effects. I will say, while, yes, I will criticise the way the game, the game works, it's not to say you don't have some amazing moments. The weather system for this game is astonishingly good. Probably the best weather effects I've come across in a racing game. Certainly on console, a few of the PC sims do some good weather as well, but yeah, this has got a stunningly good. Now I could set it to rain and everything. When it does rain, the grip does kind of completely go away. It feels, even on full wet tyres, it feels like there's zero grip. And it feels like there's a way less grip than there perhaps should be, although I don't know, having never driven a race car in the rain, but it does feel very super slippery. But as you can see on the little dial on the lower right hand corner, there is a weather radar, and this will actually track weather fronts, and you can have full on proper weather fronts going on during a race. Now that's really, really cool, and it throws up, because this can happen randomly as well. Events do not have fixed conditions, whether it be day or night apparently, or whether it be rain. And what that can mean is you can start off a race in a car on slick tyres, not realising it's going to rain in said race. Now this is something I've done a couple of times. You start off with a car on slicks, you're blasting your way up through the field, and then you look at the, it's a cloudy day, you don't think anything of it, go into slick tyres, start off with slick tyres, and yeah, not thinking really about weather being a thing. Charge your way up through the field, get to the front of the race, notice on the radar, it's getting, the clouds are getting darker, you look on the radar and the rain's coming, and you still have 3 laps to go on the race as the rain comes in, and I'm in a car on slick tyres, and I didn't buy wet weather tyres for this car, not thinking about it, just grabbed some slicks because I needed to upgrade it a bit, and the rain comes, and the AIs are not on slicks, the AIs are on normal sport tyres, so there's me desperately trying to cling on, and it's only a quick shower as well with rain. Just starts dumping water on the circuit, and to start with it's okay because the track's still dry enough for the slick tyres, and it just keeps raining, and eventually the track gets a bit too wet for the slick tyres car. I think this was at Spa actually, going down to turn 1 at Spa. I just couldn't stop my car and ended up going for a spin. I fell down the order and finished 3rd. But as an experience, that was one of the most amazing single player races I've done, in that, I was having to make these choices. Had I had wet weather, it was because I forgot to buy wet tyres for this car. Wet tyres are expensive on this game. I didn't want to buy them. I thought, I'll be fine, I'll just run the race. I didn't think about the slicks having that problem. And then you've suddenly got to deal with this. And that's something completely organic, if you like, from the game. That the game can throw up to you that no other game can do that. No other game does that. With these sort of events, these kind of goings on, if you will. It's incredibly when it works. When that sort of thing happens naturally, it made that race really, really exciting, which is what you want at the end of the day. I'm not going to do a lap at Nürburgring. Do I have anything? In fact, it was that race there. Yeah, that was the race. The Porsche Cup. I had a 911 that on slicks because I thought the slicks would give me the performance points required, and sure enough, it did. But yeah, and that is. To me, is one of the most exciting single-player races I've ever come across. Do I not have? Here we go. Let's go jump into here. Sure, I'll just do some sort of shorter races. In fact, that was the car. There we go. Slick tyre. I actually think I've got. Well, sure. Let's grab this. I mean, if it's raining here, I don't have. If it does rain here, I don't have wet tyres yet for this car anyway. But that sort of excitement, that kind of sort of natural shenanigans, if you will. No other game can do that. No other game even comes close to that sort of going on. And I wish it would focus more on that. But if that had been a grid start race, it worked out because, I'd chased my way through the field and I caught the leader quite quickly, which meant we had a couple of laps of this. What do we do with the tyres? What's going to happen with the weather and all of that goings on? Yeah, It was really, really cool, and races like that are the ones that you're gonna remember from this. Again, I wish there was more in terms of single player races. I haven't played this game very much in the last couple of days, been busy, etc. I could have probably by now completed all of the single player stuff quite easily, actually. I wish there was more on it. And I'm just comparing this to Gran Turismo 4. I can fire up my PS2 and play Gran Turismo 4. Hell, I cheated. There were various mods things for my Gran Turismo 4. If you've ever seen any of my streams, I'm messing around with all sorts of them. I cheated the races so they're only a lap long, and there's still more playtime in that game than there is on here doing every full-length race. That's probably the best comparison. But again, when the races are good on here, when you get a little bit of unpredictability, you get some AI closeness, and you add in the weather and all the shenanigans that can go with that. It is awesome. It's frustrating that there isn't more. Track list. Let's do that. This track is a modified version of a classic track. The tracks are good. Good selection of real-world circuits. The fictional tracks are good. There's some I don't like. Tokyo Expressway, for example, can't stand it. However, it is kind of as it was in, it's a very old Gran Turismo track, that one. So I don't have a problem with it being, in the game. I'm just never going to enjoy driving around it. I feel like this circuit, Deep Forest Raceway and Trial Mountain, have been changed a little bit. I liked older Gran Turismos. never been the craziest of fan. I'm not too fussed personally about the changes, but if you did enjoy these circuits as they were before, you might be a little bit annoyed about that one. I mean, it's still a fun track to drive around. It personally doesn't bother me all too much, but there is a good. I mean, you've seen that there's a good amount of locations. You've got places like Goodwood. It's always fun. Shame we don't have the hill climb stage. I wish we had the hill climb stage back in this one. However, yeah, we at least got the circuit, which is always fun to see. Yeah, there is a good... Ooh, back end's getting away from me. Get a little bit squirrely through all of that. There is a very good selection of tracks. It will keep you busy. Good amount of sort of different layouts for some of them as well. But yeah, Gran Turismo does make some very, very good fictional circuits. Is it Dragon Trail? I really like some of those layouts as well. So yeah, I mean, not only is it visually a stunning track, you know, here all of the pretty much all of the fictional ones. Not only are they impressive looking sort of tracks, you've got great scenery going on. They're all fun to drive around as well. Present some good challenges. I mean, yeah, this while it might be slightly different to what it was, it's still a fun layout to drive around and can generate some good racing. Again, lots of little details, etc. So yeah, track list is pretty much spot on, and we will run up and cross the finish line and take another. This is very cheesy. I'm just using my high performance cars here, but I will make the most of that one. Now, let's talk about car customization. The game does focus a little bit more on car customization. Forza, certainly the Forza Motorsport games have always been, you know, heavy on the car customization, which is great. I like it. Gran Turismo games of old were often more about using cars as they came. There was upgrading, but often it's a little bit more focused on just as they arrived. Now that has changed to a degree here. There is generally more encouragement to have a go with customized cars and to use the performance limits. So for events like this, for example, I can't cheese my way through with the 600 or 700 performance point Porsche. I'd have to use my Celica or something. Did it let me do that? Oh, it's 600, not 700. It might let me get away with that, possibly. I can use my M3, etc. There is more focus on it, which is cool to see. But again, the upgrading for this is in some ways amazing and some ways not amazing. So, in fact, I didn't want to get into the Alfa Romeo. That is of no real use to me for this, because that's a full-on race car. I mean, while I said the car list isn't amazing and it isn't great, I say it's not great. There are some awesome vehicles, definitely. There's plenty of awesome vehicles in here. I just wish there was more stuff to choose from, really. Let's go and get in. Actually, this might be an interesting one. Let's get a Corvette. Okay. This is the sort of car you would expect to be fairly tunable on this one. So, we can go down here, and I mean, the tuning shop is along the lines of what you would have seen in previous Gran Turismo games. You have lots of options for tyres, lots of compounds of tyres, always good. You can put it on dirt tyres if you wish. I mean, it's okay. It's certainly not bad, and there are things like over time the engines and bodies can wear, and you can replace them. I don't know how far you'd have to drive. I presume a long way before you can get there. You can get nitro in the cars. It's quite expensive. The upgrading is fairly expensive on here. One of the things I don't like so much about it is you can't often do turbos on the cars. Okay, this one here admittedly does let me put a supercharger, which, you know, okay, perhaps you might expect the Corvette to more likely be supercharged. Yeah, alright, that's maybe fair enough, but why not let me put a turbo on it if I want? The game is quick to kind of restrict you on these things. Hell, that Porsche, for example, I was driving doesn't let me fit a turbocharger. An M3 I have doesn't let me fit a turbo. A few cars will, but a lot of tyres, see, probably 50% of cars that I've messed about with will not let me put both types of aspiration. If they start off as naturally aspirated, you can't. If something's got a supercharger, you can't change it to a turbo. None of the cars I've had would let me do that. And again, it's kind of a bit restrictive. Now, there are special tuning parts that you can win. These come from the sort of wheel spin things that you get. So for completing the daily mileage thing, there's a wheel spin, and you can get things from that. For example, I've got an ultra high RPM turbocharger, but this is for a specific car. I don't care about the BRZ drift car. I'm probably never going to buy it. There are some cool parts, but it's very, again, it all seems really over the top restrictive. There's no engine swaps, or there might be a way to engine swap from what I have heard. Apparently from these wheel spin things, you can, I've heard you can do it. I've never seen it myself, but that's the only way you could swap engines. Now, I've completed all the cafe missions, and they're the ones that often give you these roulette tokens, they're called on here. And I didn't win an engine. The daily workout often is only a lower tier token that often doesn't even have an option for an engine as a thing. So if you're hoping you can go and put a silly engine in a Prius and go, right, you can't. You just can't. I say all of that, yet the game then does go the other way. And as we saw when I did the building a track car video, when it comes to tuning and so on, it also does some really, really cool things. Here we go. Let's go and grab this one. This is a good example. So if you have got things like an adjustable ECU, which is always good, you can drop the power down. You can limit the power, and that will then change the amount of performance points you get over here. So you can whack on all the upgrades for your car, then detune it to a level so that it can hit exactly, let's say you wanted to build the car to 500, for an example. Well, we could go down here and we could then get it closer. That is awesome. That is awesome. That level of adjustability is really, really good. I love being able to, we've got power adjuster. You can add ballast to a car. You can have a power restrictor as well. There's loads of ways you can balance stuff and you can restrict things. And that is something that certainly sort of like Forza could learn from. And even things we're talking, I mean, again, this is what we saw. The aero is going to change the performance of the car. So the more aero you run, so the more aero you run, the more drag you'll create. So the less the top speed will be, but you will get more grip. That is the trade-off. You'll get more grip, and this is all taken into consideration when creating this. So if you were like 170, let's say, that's one of the highest you'll get it, because I guess that's more grip with still some top speed, etc. There's that, again, a crazy level. You can get four-wheel steering added into some cars and all of that. So what is here is it can be really, really detailed. Really detailed. And I love having all the different options, compounded tyre as well. Soft tyre's going to wear out really, really quickly compared to the harder compound tyre. And this is all reflected in the rating of the car. You can even mix and match if you want to be mad. Go for it. Very, very cool system. There is a downside to all of this. While I haven't really experimented much with online, the online does allow tuning, does allow custom cars for a lot of stuff that has come up so far. And with this amount of adjustability and tunability, it's apparently not very balanced. In fact, horrifically broken is basically what I've heard, which I could see, I can totally see. There would be ways of figuring it out to really maximise, so you just wouldn't get close racing. Now, I get, maximising vehicles' performance. It's a fun challenge to, get these vehicles as fast as possible, but ultimately the goal is to have some close racing. And yeah, to have that level of, I say, adjustability, to have that level of precision with the rating, it better be spot on. Otherwise, there's going to be ways to exploit cars that will exploit it, and so on. And apparently that's what all the online is. I've not really delved into it, but that is a large one. And I could totally imagine the level of chaos that sort of stuff would bring, which is, I say is a little bit of a shame. Is to be expected, really. So yeah, I mean it's a difficult one. This, I really enjoy this game. I've enjoyed playing this game an awful lot. There are certainly problems with it. Some easily fixable. Why there isn't more single-player races, I don't know. I really don't, because I'm just looking at older Gran Turismo games here, and this feels very bare bones, very limited. Monster's got one bloody race at the end of the day. What can we run here? What have we not driven? You know what? Let's go jump in my BMW. Why not? Just to finish, I might as well go get some. Might go get a gold trophy for this one. Yeah, it does feel pretty bare bones in some regards. However, there are also going to be races, as like with that Spa race in the Porsche, that are going to be unbelievably memorable. When it all comes together, it is astonishingly good. And I genuinely mean that. When it all comes together, it is absolutely amazing. There is no doubt about it. There are still going to be things, though, that frustrate you about it. There are things that are going to be annoying. And I'm not talking about the license tests being fiddly. I mean, they might annoy you, but they're supposed to be tough. It does do a good job, as on the subject of license tests, it does do a good job of helping you kind of get faster with actual racing. Those sort of the license tests and the missions are good for helping you get better and get faster around the circuits and with racing, learn racing lines and so on. That is a really cool thing for the games to do. It does, genuinely does help. Some of them are frustrating, some of them are finicky, and some of them will take a multiple attempts and will be annoying. Oh dear. You'll still end up in a wall sometimes. But yeah, it's a cool system. But yeah, we're not talking about frustration having to do license tests a million times and all that. There's just some design decisions that I feel could have been done an awful lot better. As I said, just give us grid starts, put all the cars together, have the AIs actually, race wheel to wheel. They're actually pretty good at it when on the few events where they do, a few events where you get a chance to, they're not bad. But the game's just so desperate to have you do these chase down slow cars. That sort of stuff. That sort of stuff that's annoyed me with it will probably annoy plenty of other people. Yeah, I say it's a difficult one to call. I do very, very much recommend this game. There's no doubt about it. I recommend it. It will probably frustrate you in places. I really hope we will see more events. I remember the special condition events. Again, Gran Turismo 4 special condition events were fun. I really hope we see more content going forwards. More single player stuff going forwards, because that's essentially what it's lacking. I feel personally anyway. So yeah, I guess we will see. As it stands currently, I still give the game a recommendation. You'll still have a lot of fun with it, no doubt at all. I very much hope going forward we see some more stuff added in, because yeah, it is kind of lacking a little bit at the moment. We will slide the Beamer around a little bit. We're on sport tyres on this one. No wonder. Oh dear, problems. Uh-oh. Don't lose this bloody race. We were cheesing it massively with the car. Thankfully, we can get out of the gravel trap. Is that the Alpine made its way up? I think probably that. So yeah, there we go. That is going to be about it for this video. There will still, I have no doubt, be Gran Turismo 7 content going forward. I've got a few ideas for this. I'm sure plenty more will come to me as I work my way through like the missions and who knows. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some more Gran Turismo 7 stuff, don't worry. Probably even be some multiplayer stuff at some point, maybe even some streams. We will have to wait and see. But there we go. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.